I want to bring in the host of Bloomberg Daybreak Asia, Shery Ahn, who's been covering a lot of this. And Shery, particularly as we look to Hong Kong, they're now bracing what could be one of their biggest waves yet.
Yeah, really what's happening in Hong Kong is something of a cautionary tale. We saw Hong Kong doing really well at the onset of this pandemic. They started acting fast late last year when we had the initial outbreak in China, social distancing, wearing masks. In the spring, though, complacency set in. So we had bars and restaurants reopening, filling up. And now these daily cases are surging. We're talking about more than 600 cases in the past 2 weeks. Hong Kong now bracing for the worst outbreak ever. So the government is right now denying speculation that they might go into another lockdown, but you never know where we might end up. Already this GTV chart on the Bloomberg showing how everything is starting to slow down. This is the demand for public transport in Hong Kong dropping consistently every day after almost making a full recovery. The problem with Hong Kong right now, as we have these resurgence of the virus, is that it's affecting an older group as opposed to here in the U.S. where more younger people have been affected. What that means is that the likelihood of more cases turning critical is very high. The median age this time around in Hong Kong is 55 years old, up from 40 in previous waves, not to mention that we're now seeing clusters forming in nursing homes.
It's interesting, talking of aging populations, that has always been something that we associate perhaps with Japan as a nation, one that seemed to be of an older cohort. Talk to us about Japan this weekend, because if my memory serves, we were meant to be celebrating the Olympics, but that feels so long ago now.
Yeah, postponed until 2021, right? This is a time that Japan should have been celebrating the Tokyo Summer Olympics. So they're actually going in a 4-day holiday starting this Thursday. But now the Tokyo governor, Yuriko Koike, now considering telling people to just stay indoors during the holiday, given that we're seeing these resurgence of the virus in Tokyo. We're talking about more than 200 people infected every day in Tokyo recently, with 237 cases reported on Tuesday. We are seeing also people admitted to hospital really rising and jumping fivefold in the past month. Tokyo lifted its state of emergency on May 25th. Now they're saying that perhaps they don't have to implement another state of emergency. And that may be the reason for that is that this time around contact tracing in Hong Kong, in Tokyo seems to be working well, which is actually in contrast to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong, about half of the cases that were found were really they couldn't find the origin of this virus. In Tokyo, though, contact tracing has been working very well. Infections of unknown origins standing at around 39% as compared to around 70% during the height of the pandemic in April. And Caroline, you mentioned the elderly in Japan. Fortunately for Japan this time around, most people who have been affected, or more than half of the people affected since the state of emergency was lifted on May 25th, have been people in their 20s, which helps a lot.
And Shery, we stay in the region and go to Melbourne, not Sydney, but the second largest city in Australia under a renewed lockdown as well. What is the update?
Yes, in their second 6-week lockdown right now, and the resurgence continues. And of course, Melbourne is a very important city. You said it is the second largest in Australia, but also Victoria State is one of the largest states. We're talking about 20% of the national population in Melbourne, and you can see the resurgence of the virus in that chart. The second wave kicking off around mid-June. Victoria State cases surging to 6,289. And not surprising, given how important this economy is for Australia. We saw the economy, not to mention the ASX 200, starting to stall starting mid-June.